Good afternoon and welcome to Dateline New Haven on WNHH-FM, New Haven's home for community radio. I'm Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make our community tick. We have something new to play for you today that you're going to hear before the rest of the world hears it. And there's a story behind it that our returned guest, our friend Chris Big Dog Davis, is going to tell us about. Chris Big Dog Davis, the twice Grammy-nominated producer, keyboardist, songwriter, arranger, performer, 17 number one Billboard smooth jazz hits to his name. Learned his early licks right here in New Haven in the studio to tell us about this new song we're going to preview, and his friend Stevie Wonder, who's on it. Good morning, Big Dog. Thanks for coming back.
Good morning, Paul. Thank you for having me.
So we're here. We're going to start. We got a lot to talk about, but we're going to start by talking about and listening to a new song. There's a single called "Don't Make Me Wait Too Long." It's coming out February 13th by Kimberly Brewer. You are the producer and keyboard player. Co-producer and keyboard player on the track. You can pre-order it now. And tell us, who plays the chromatic harmonica on this one?
The famous Stevie Wonder.
Stevie Wonder.
I know it was like, took a minute for me to even get the name out of my mouth.
And you produced a new single that we know is going to go places.
I co-produced it with a good friend of mine. Name is Byron Miller. Byron Miller was George Duke, bassist, and also he produces a lot of records and an incredible artist and musician.
And it's a remake of a song Stevie Wonder wrote that Donny Hathaway and Roberta Flack recorded back in the day, Don't Make Me Wait Too Long. And in producing this, we're going to listen to it in a moment so people can hear it. In producing a song like this, Big Dog, what do you do to make it your own? Like, what's the challenge in producing a song that's already been on the charts?
As I said, Kimberly called me and she said, Big Dog, I want you to actually just play on this track, listen to it, and tell me what you think. So I do what I do, and Kimberly and I have been working together on a couple songs prior to this one. So it worked out all good. So I was excited. I didn't know that she was going to put Stevie and Joe and all the rest of the people on top of the song until I heard the final mix. And that's why I'm here today. I wanted to share this with the world about, from me, from where I'm coming from, Connecticut, Waterbury, born and raised, and to end up on 2023 having a song coming out that I produced, co-produced, and also played on, and it also have the greatest artist that I ever known, Stevie Wonder, on it, and Joe.
What I love about it is that, Stevie Wonder is known to most people as a singer-songwriter and keyboardist. You're playing the keys, and he's blowing the keys. He's doing the chromatic harmonica, and nobody does harmonica like Stevie Wonder. He does the chromatic, which if our listeners don't know, a lot of times you pick up a harmonica, it doesn't have that extra button, lets you do sharps and flats. You're usually doing it for like country or blues type or folk type songs that stay within a very limited range of notes.
Right.
And then Stevie plays it like a much different kind of instrument. I would argue it's almost like a cross between a reed and a keyboard. Like, he bends the notes, but in a much different way from a traditional harmonica, in that it's got the sharps and flats, and it takes you places the way his music takes you places from the realms of jazz, gospel, funk, soul, pop.
Stevie's in that room. Stevie's in that room, like from harmonica playing with Toots Tillman. That type of thing, man.
So what were you thinking playing when you played the keyboards and knowing that he wrote the song? What was your approach to playing the keyboards on the song? Did you want to play it quite like it was done in the original version, where you bring something new to it the way you usually do?
Well, that's why they get a hold of me. They call it the big dog flip. So
okay, what's the big dog flip?
Kimberly wanted the big dog flip up there. So I listened to, it's like watching an old movie when you remake a new movie or when you remake a new song. You try to keep the naturalness of it, what people remember, and then you begin to put your own little thing on top of it. So
because you're doing it in a different era, a different generation. What was the original song? Was it in the 70s?
Yeah,
we could find that. But anyway, you're talking about 50 years almost later. So we're in a different world, but there's something that's timeless about music, about a movie that you remake, and then there's something that we hear a little differently when it's a new day, right?
Right.
Is there a way to describe? Sometimes music I can overtalk it. Sometimes you just got to hear it. Before we hear it, is there something about the approach you took to the keyboards that did update it while respecting the original?
Well, and it's looking at the genre of that Kimberly Brewer and Joe is putting this in. So back then, it was into more adult contemporary R&B.
Mm-hmm.
This is going into more smooth jazz.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get this on watercolors. Watercolors don't do too many vocals, but when you have a name back there, say Stevie Wonder, it does a lot. So it's a different genre, but the reason why I wanted to highlight this song is because, like I said, how many times do we get to produce or play on a song that Stevie Wonder's on? So that's
the honor of a lifetime.
Oh man, it's one of my biggest. That and Carnegie Hall has been two of my biggest for me.
Well, Chris Big Dog Davis, co-producer of the new release, which you can order now, but you can't hear anywhere but here until February 13th. Don't make me wait too long. Kimberly Brewer on the vocals. We're going to take a listen to it right now. Don't make me wait too long. Folks, you're going to have to wait till February 13th to hear that again, but you can pre-order. How do we pre-order it, Christo?
I think it's online. You can go and type in Kimberly Brewer.
Kimberly Brewer.
It's on social media. Don't make me wait too long. Spotify, all the digital outlets.
It's a remake of a song recorded originally by Donny Hathaway and Roberta Flack, written by Stevie Wonder. It is the new version. It's produced by the man, co-produced by the man in this studio right now, Chris Big Dog Davis, our twice Grammy-nominated producer, 17 number one Billboard Smooth Jazz hits. Maybe this will be number 18.
And I want to correct you. I do have 18 number one.
Oh, you do have 18. Sorry.
Yes, as of 2022.
So maybe this will be 19. I mean,
I'll take
it. Big Dog plays the keys, and more importantly, he does the co-producing as well, and Stevie Wonder does the harmonica on this. Now, a couple things are interesting to me about this, Big Dog. Number one is obviously the spoken part at the end with the rhythmic coming to the foreground. I take it that was not in the original. That's one way you updated it, right?
Yes, and as I said, I did my part, and then it went out to L.A. With Byron Miller. So, like I said, I did my part, and then when I heard it, when I did my part, Stevie wasn't up there. I had no idea.
So what was it like when you found out Stevie Wonder was playing with you on a track?
That's why I'm here today.
So couple of things, at first I didn't realize when we were listening to that track, I didn't realize at first that I was listening to Stevie's harmonica. Like I was thinking back, for some reason, this is very obscure. He played a great harmonica solo on a recording by a woman named Rory Block. I don't know if you're familiar with her, the blues guitarist, but she was in the 70s and 80s. And he did one on the 80s with Gypsy Boys, this beautiful song, and it wasn't a blues song. And it was one of those more pop in his genre where it kind of splits the keys with a little surprising chord twists. And it was a solo, so you don't hear him until he comes on, and there's Stevie taking the melody in a different direction. On this song, I feel like he was in the mix pretty much from the beginning, and then it breaks, not break for solo, but carrying the tune, carrying the melody at certain points, and other parts becoming part of the wall of sound there. Is that accurate?
Yeah, as a producer, sometimes you may want the artist, Stevie, give me a little more. But you can tell in this production, I mean, this is Stevie Wonder. You know how many times he done played a solo or a melody? So when I hear it, my perspective is, that's Stevie. As soon as they come in,
I agree. You hear it right away.
Right there, I go.
Well, the other reason it took me a moment, as I said, he plays harmonica different from so many people. What's that wind instrument that's a little bit like a piano that reggae was using so much in the 70s and 80s? You know what I'm talking about? It's like a clarinet, but you play the keyboards, but you blow into it.
Yeah, I forget what they call it.
But he plays the harmonica almost like that, and I think he brings his approach as a pianist, as a keyboardist.
On top of the
harmonica, and he plays the harmonica. It's its own instrument. I feel like that's Stevie Wonder playing harmonica in a way that doesn't sound like anyone else playing harmonica, and it melds into the rest of the track.
Like I said, when you listen to Stevie music, even from my perspective as a keyboard player, when you hear a clavinet,
right?
When you hear a bass moog, that's Stevie. And then when you hear his drumming, Stevie does drums on a lot of his recordings too. And, of course, the harmonica. So when that sound comes on, man, as soon as I heard it, she sent me the final mix and was telling me who was up there, I'm like.
When was that?
When did I get that? I think it was last year. Was
it before or after the Berks Jazz Festival in the Berkshires that you played?
This was actually, I think it was before.
Because then that summer, we were talking about this before we went on, you hosted and produced a whole tribute to women in jazz at the Berks Jazz Festival in the Berkshires last summer.
Yeah, and that was last summer.
2022, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we did. That was, we did a thing for Stevie, all Stevie Wonder songs.
Like what were some of the examples? Superstitious or?
Oh, man, keeps going. I mean, just keep going. Jungle
Happy
Fever.
Birthday.
Happy Birthday. These 3 words.
Once in My Life, or is that going back too far?
Superstition. Man, it was huge, and that's where I finally met Kimberly Brewer.
And Living for the City, of course, growing up, that was my favorite.
All that. I mean,
That has such a great rhythm track. And then when he goes to the episode where he has the conversation between,
you can just keep going.
and that was on Top 40 Radio. That was just amazing.
You can keep going.
So at the end of that concert, you got a surprise. Here you did a concert, Women in Jazz, doing tribute to Stevie Wonder, and what happened?
Well, once again, my good friend Kimberly Brewer surprised me. She's such a sweetheart. She's been with Stevie. Her and Mesa, they was on Jungle Fever.
Mm-hmm.
They actually sang backgrounds on these 3 words. So she's been hinting at me like, I'm going to connect you and Stevie. You know, I'm like, yeah, whatever. So during the concert, it was during a break, and they showed Stevie chimed in on the whole show so everyone can see him.
He's on a big video screen.
He's on a big video screen.
And what were you doing at the time?
I was there trying to get all the artists together, get ready for the second half. And it was like, Big Dog, look on the screen. So it was a big surprise.
And what did he say?
Well,
I did listen, but
he said things. He gave me a big shout out. He gave John Ernesto, which is the big guy down there for the Bergs who runs that. But he gave me a motivation. You know what I mean? He shout
Brenda
out.
Hammett says hearts, and thanks for listening, Brenda.
That excited me, you know, and I was like, yeah. So I came home that Monday and I began to work. I love working. So I'm in the Stevie mode. So I started composing this song called Saturday Love. So as I'm composing Saturday Love, the phone rings. And I don't know the number, so I go, hello? And the person on the other line go, how was the show? I said, how was the show? Yeah, then you just do a show? I'm like, yeah. I said, it went fine. I said, who is this? He said, Stevie. I said, Stevie who? He said, Stevie Wonder. I was like, huh? For 20 minutes, we talked, and I was just blown away. He said to me, we're going to work. We got work to do. He said, Big Dog, we got work to do. You and I got work to do in this universe. You know, he's a very
Did you ever see the thing when he did the tribute to Bill Withers, sitting with Bill Withers? Was it Grandma's Hands? I forget. It's really beautiful. He's still doing interesting music. Yeah.
Listen, I never met him. I never was in the studio with him and not like that. You know what I'm saying?
Don't you think it says something that a guy who, one of the leading musicians of the last half century, more than the last half century, in the Berkshires, Massachusetts, after all his fame, all his awards, Hall of Fame, million-selling records, he actually went on the video that night to thank you, actually, pay tribute that you were doing his music and keeping it fresh and open, and then called you to talk about it and connect. I think that says something about him as a...
Without
being stuck up, you know what I mean?
Never being in the studio with him. I can't wait for that moment to sit across the piano from him.
Yeah.
Because
he talked about, because he was 11 or 12 when he had the first hit when he was a kid on Motown, Fingertips. It was number one hit in 1963. We
opened with that. That's the song I opened up with. Yep.
And he tells the story about, he was blind, right? And he was driving in some, he was already a celebrity, a little kid, and how he had to learn not to be thinking he's so good and better than other people as a kid. And he learned that lesson. He sure did, because celebrity's a hard thing to adjust to.
And can you
human.
Imagine he was on the Motown? They had the big tour.
Mm-hmm.
He was the drummer.
Oh, wow.
For Marvin Gaye.
Wow.
When they come on, Stevie played drums, man. He had to be like 8 or 9. Then they brought him on. Then he did the Fingertips. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
can you imagine that? He was on drums first.
Wow.
How
did he get started at that age?
Man, we all started. I started at 4.
Playing in the church, right?
Well, on a piano. My mother, they said, I started playing the boogie woogie on the porch. She had a piano on the porch. So, hey, man, I went in, and thank God for my mother. God bless her soul. She's seen the talent. And I ended up here on Dixwell Avenue at Yale After School Program.
I remember you talked about that. Yale School of Music when you were still in high school.
Yes.
And then you went to the Hart, and then it was all there was history.
Jackie McClain.
What point did Stevie Wonder's music enter into your consciousness in that?
Songs in the Key of Life.
So
I won,
early 70s.
Yeah, I won the record. I brought it home. My mother was like, "What's that?"
There were a few records at the same time he made. It was Songs in the Key of Life, Talking Book, Inner Visions, 72 to 76. Tell me if it's like that for you. I mean, I wasn't a musician like you, but those albums were like they changed the universe for you because he's in the pop mode. He's on top 40 as well as R&B. It's got a real funk base to it, but he's going places because of where he's going with the jazz chords. The layers of production are so interesting, and he'll weave in and out of something like an A-B format or whether he's going to take it somewhere else, and it still fits. You know, he still fits in a way that everyone can understand it.
Berry Gordy.
Oh, okay.
He know how to take it, to market it, and to get it into.
He was such an original who brought it all together. So you won that record. You must have been, what, about 14?
Steve, oh, yeah, man.
So what did that do for you as a musician?
Changed my life. I wish. Dum, 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 dum. So, I mean, you know, we was in that room.
And that was the Moog? The bass,
yes.
That was when he did the bass line like that. That was the Moog. That was also kind of new because he had sort of like the art rock people who were trying to figure out the sympathizer, you know, Rick Wakeman, yes. But Stevie really had a beat to it. You know what I mean? He had a rhythm. He had instinct time signature.
Once again, Berry Gordy.
Oh, okay, he always knew how to take that.
Well, it's the marketing. We all have talent.
Mm-hmm.
We all do. But it's to get it to the mass of consumers.
Mm-hmm.
That's the...
Well, Big Dog, you know, you had classical training, you had jazz training at Jackie McLean. You obviously had, you know, you're in the smooth jazz realm, but you also had the gospel and the... So I guess what I'm trying to drive at is how did Stevie figure into that? Because he's another figure who combines all those different streams into accessible music. So I was just wondering, was there any... When you got that record and brought it home and played it and blew your mind, did it affect what you were doing with your music? Did it affect the way you thought about the different training you were getting with classical music, jazz music, and what you were hearing on the street with what was happening
of
with
course.
R&B?
Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan, all the talent goes into the NBA. He's winning dunk contests, he's winning everything, but he's not winning a championship yet.
Mm.
So he's got all this training. So what they had to do, Phil Jackson had to get a coach to start putting everything in layers so Mike can understand. For me, it's the same thing. I was gospel, I had jazz. I was everywhere. And I remember I was like 14 years old. So now what you see the Michael Jordan of jazz with me. Because now I know how to put everything.
But aren't you also the coach? I mean, aren't you Mace's coach? Aren't you Kimberly's? I mean, you kind of put it together.
I don't look at as coach as a producer.
No. What I mean is you are the producer. In one sense, you're this wonderful performer and writer. You're also making other people shine.
If you want to look at it that way, me, I don't look at it that way. I think we all make each other shine. And I take what they give and make it happen.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? So it's not, do I take their less of or their great of. I take whatever they give. And if that's what they have to give, I make it and put it down. I have a perspective, a vision, and then I go in and make it happen.
Do you have a favorite Stevie song?
They all.
It's kind of hard.
I mean, you know, Ribbon in the Sky.
Oh, I love that one. That's a beautiful song.
Beautiful. I mean, wow. Stevie. That's why I'm here, Paul. Because some days I go Stevie, right? And then some days I go Stevie. Wow. My grandkids be living off of that. Man.
That's true. And we're talking to Chris Big Dog Davis, who is a star producer, keyboardist, songwriter, arranger, has a new single out. He's a co-producer, keyboardist with Stevie Wonder on a chromatic harmonica, sung by Kimberly Brewer. Don't Wake Me Wait Too Long. Can I shift gears here and play people a track, a recording of a song from a concert you played at Stetson Library? This was actually one of my favorite performances of 2022.
Really?
It was a fantastic evening. There was magic in there. Diane Brown, the librarian, put this together with a real sense with Long Wharf Theater because there's a Jerry Lee Morton show, and you were doing a tribute to Jerry Lee Morton. And what I thought was brilliant about it was it had some of his music, but a lot of it was about the role he played in jazz. I'm calling, the inventor of jazz. A lot of people get called that. But you showed through other kind of music what his influence and what his story was, and you brought us there with it. You said great stuff between the songs, but it's really the songs. And I thought one way was Brian Slattery had a great write-up about The Independent about when you were playing the entertainer, and it was always been improvised. It's a rag written by
yes.
Scott Joplin, which actually he did not, if I understand it correctly, Scott Joplin had this very kind of classic notion of ragtime, that it was going to be written in a score, played the same way every time. But of course, that doesn't fly with jazz. And as we know, and because he wanted to see, I think he had a little bit of a maybe looking down on the jazz people, Jelly Roll Morton, who played in the whorehouses or something. But like, but in fact, the music was bigger than the person. So now you go back, you go ahead more than a half a century, and here's Big Dog at Stetson Library playing the entertainer. Something, a lot of people found it a second life to it in The Sting as a movie in the early 70s.
Right, yes.
But then you added a new twist to it. So can we take a little listen to it?
Absolutely.
This is The Entertainer.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Wow, that was
Man.
that was quite a performance. That was Chris Big Dog Davis playing at Stetson Library last August, and a tribute to Jelly Roll Morton, and included some Jelly Roll Morton music, but that including Scott Joplin's "The Entertainer." And what
so
a rendition! Now, you talked about that night. You were trying to show us about jazz, and that's what Jelly Roll Morton's real legacy was, jazz that got greater than he was.
Yes.
And you made that song, "The Entertainer," much more than Scott Joplin has, even though it was a great piece when he wrote it. You talked that night about the need to improvise. When you planned out what you played that night, because you were deep in it, were you improvising?
All day.
I mean, the way you went at the end.
All day.
But you still laid it out. So you played alone for the first half. We thought it was over, right? You had the break, and then in came the bass, in came the drums.
Right.
And you were going all different places.
The
with it.
vision of it, taking it to Scott, Jelly Roll, Big Dog. Those patterns as I'm playing.
And there's more than one big dog, because you kind of had right before the other instruments came in, it went in this kind of smooth place, right?
Yes.
But then I kind of felt you stepped back when they came in. I felt that was back in like bop maybe for a minute.
It started that.
And then you went back to where you're doing the modern sound.
I want to give a shout out to the bass player and drummer, which was Ace Livingston and Dexter Petaway. Man, that's my team right there.
You guys are hot that night.
Man.
But what were you saying about music, about the universality of music?
That improvisation and jazz, what I've been taught, you can play anything, actually. But you know what I mean? It all, as Miles Davis was saying, it all has to make sense. It's got to make sense, though.
And there's a meaning when you have a label like jazz. And there's also limitations. So when Miles Davis was going to play with Jimi Hendrix before then Hendrix tragically died, there was some kind of fusion there where they were listening to each other and playing each other, and the categories, kind of the Bitches Brew and the Hendrix,
Yes.
acid rock, it kind of fused a little bit. You know what I mean? So at that concert at Stetson, after you played Kansas City Stomp, you played Stormy Weather. You then played Cyndi Lauper's True Colors. No, and it was jazz when you played it. It wasn't just jazz.
Right.
People didn't used to think of that as jazz. So how do we think about that? Why did you put that in there? And what does that say about the way you view music and boundaries?
I think that had to be because of the artist that was singing that, which is the incredible Queen of Connecticut, Dawn Tallman.
Oh, yeah, she did a nice job.
Yeah, so, and
you kept going back. She kept there
to
sing more on that.
Yeah, she's jazz. And Miles Davis did a Cyndi Lauper song.
Really?
Yes.
Which one?
I can't think of it right now. What's the name of that song?
Girls Want to Have Fun? No.
No. It was what's that song?
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Miles did, but he did that one. I can't. That's when he had the red horn. He was going more into the fusion part of it. What's the name of that song?
Well, I guess one thing I'm asking, Big Dog, isn't it always important in music that the people who really do music, the real pioneers, people like you have very specific influences, Stevie Wonder, jazz, gospel, and there's something bigger about music to the people where you play it, where you then do see beyond the boundaries, and that music is music.
Yeah,
it's like people are people.
See, because a lot of people, you have classical people. People stay there classical. They may listen to other music, but their forte, what they're known for, is classical. R&B singers, folk, country, pop, rock guitar. People that when you get to absorb all of the music, and as a producer, I'm working on a new documentary. I'm scoring one as we speak right now.
What is it?
It's called Tomato Soup, and it also by who helped me score that is Gerald Albright's daughter. Her name is Selena Albright, singer, and we've been scoring this together. And it got the very famous comedian Michael Collier inside there. So I've been scoring this, and it comes with. It's just not music. I have to look at themes and pictures from there, and to make.
What's it about?
Tomato Soup is about a homeless guy. If you know about Michael Collier movie, he was homeless. They met him on the street. He's a big comedian star now, so it's kind of based around that, and it's based around taking ketchup. A little kid went to the restaurant and got a cup of hot water, and they put ketchup inside there and made tomato soup. It's incredible, man.
Oh, wow.
It's incredible. So I'm honored to be scoring.
So you're working on scoring. I wanted to ask you what else you're up to. So you played South Jazz Club in Philly in January 5th and 6th. How'd that go? That was
beautiful.
Unscripted Jazz Series.
Yeah, I got the Berks coming up April 1st. That's Women in Jazz #2.
All right.
And I have that on that card is Regina Bell, the great Regina Bell, Avery Sunshine, Lori Williams, Mesa, Jasmine Gent, Karen Briggs, and Kayla Waters. incredible. The Women in Jazz #1 went so great that we're doing a #2.
What made you want to do Women in Jazz?
That's them, whatever they call. It's not me. They go, hey, Big Dog, Women in Jazz. We'll give you a bunch of women, write some songs.
And last time you did Stevie Wonder, what are you going to do this time?
Women in Jazz #2.
And what's the music going to be?
Jazz, Women in Jazz. Specifically, the Women in Jazz, the first time we focus on the old traditional jazz, Sarah Vaughan and all of them. This time we're going a little bit more up into more the R&B of the women, but it's just all women.
Aretha Franklin?
That type of thing, respect. We're doing a couple of things like that. So, it's just showing what women bring into the music.
So you haven't stopped. You haven't stopped since like the 1970s. Where do you see the music taking you? Where is Big Dog when you sit down at the keyboards, when you're producing a song, you're putting together a set? Where are you now from where you used to be? Where do you see?
I can go anywhere I want to go. It's my vision. People do music.
Mm-hmm.
I do music visionary. So I have to see. Once I begin to see it, it all comes to me right there. So that you gotta see it first. And once I see it, then I go get it. I have the tools to go get what I see.
Mm-hmm. And you had you have any recordings coming up? You got
Yes, I have a new single coming out.
What's that?
It's called Sailing. I did the Christopher Cross.
Oh, Sailing.
Yeah,
Yep.
Take Me Away. That's gonna be a big hit for me.
I'm gonna be really to see what you do with that.
Oh,
That can go.
I put it on social media the other day. I got like 200 comments. People going, oh.
Because that's a song that cries out to be done differently, so we hear it the way we hear it now. The way we heard that one in the 70s was a very different kind of vibe.
I got a different
The world's
vibe.
changed.
I have the famous Gerald Albright with me on sax.
And what do you do on the rhythm with that song? 'Cause that song needs some rhythm.
It's got some stuff up there, man.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me.
I trust you. And when's that coming out?
June 26th.
All right, we're going to be listening for that one. And you know, Chris, one thing we always appreciate about you tour the world with the biggest names, the biggest stars. Now you got Stevie Wonder, someone you collaborated with and sees your value. And yet you never forget your roots. You never forget Connecticut, Waterbury, New Haven. You are an honorary friend of Stetson Library and Diane Brown. You come back, you perform for the kids,
Love
do your
them.
concert.
Love her.
You
She
brought so
always
many
take
of us
care
into
me.
the space, the new wonderful Stetson Library space. That concert was unforgettable. And you came in today to WNHH-FM, and we appreciate you so much.
And you, Paul.
And we're
You take my energy and you take my music and you put it out on the airways. We need that.
And I was so excited that you got all these great projects to work.
Thank you so much, man.
So I know it's a little bit old hat for you, but number 19, #1 Billboard single may be coming out.
It's coming.
It feels good. It feels like don't make me
It's
wait
gonna
too
come.
long for number
That
one.
one or Sailing. One
right.
of them gonna hit.
We'll take one of them, all right?
That's right.
Doesn't matter. We'll let the fates decide.
Love it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Chris Big Dog Davis. Thank you, Diane Brown, for as always arranging it. Thank you, Brenda, for your comments, listening. And thanks to Harry Drost, the #1 radio producer in the business. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free, talking about updates and reimaginings. This is Paul Bass inviting you to fly free with us all day and all night at WNHH-FM, New Haven's home for community radio.